and it's time for week number 1 in the Champions League, in the NBBL. Now, our week 1 opponent is Zacmander, and those of you who kind of watch my channel know that I do not do VGC or doubles, but this seemed like a good way to kind of get acquainted with things and to force myself to ladder up to get things like in-game items and such. So while I may go with losing several of these battles, my intention here is to learn a lot so that in the future we can come back stronger and push every opponent that we have to the brink. So our opponent's team for this league: Zacmander has access to Excadrill, Dragapult, Talonflame, Sylveon, Mega Blastoise, Mega Tyranitar, Rotom-Mow, Conkeldurr, Trevenant, and Luxray. Now for the first battle here, this is kind of a weird mirror match. So of course we are going with VGC rules, so this is best of 3. I have my Roselli Berry, Sableye, Choice Scarf Rotom, a very bulky, physically bulky Avalugg, redirection support with my Clefable. We have our Gyarados, which is very especially bulky, and then we have our Mega Excadrill. Here I was anticipating that I would be Mega Evolving the Mega Excadrill a lot of the time, but if I got a Cosmic Power off, Mega Clefable could also put in a good amount of work here. In the first matchup, I kind of anticipated my opponent to go with the very obvious Sand lead versus me. You can see that he has the Excadrill, Tyranitar, Talonflame, Dragapult, Sylveon, and the Mega Blastoise, and the Mega Tyranitar, excuse me. In this league, if you choose your Pokemon as the Mega, they have to hold the Mega Stone. So even if a Pokemon is not intended to be the Mega here, you'll notice that I have to have the Mega Stone for Clefable and my Excadrill, and so my opponent has to have it for the Tyranitar and the Blastoise. Now we are going to lead off with our, I believe we end up leading with the Gyarados and the, I think we lead Gyarados Clefable in the first one. The idea there is that if my opponent tries to lead with Sand and try to go for the annoying Rock Slide play, that the Intimidate will really cut down the damage from the Rock Slides. You do have to be careful with Gyarados versus something like Tyranitar, because Tyranitar gets ample special coverage, and that is why I went with such a specially bulky Gyarados for this matchup. The other thing that's really nice about Gyarados here is that it can one-hit KO the Talonflame, and it can one-hit KO the Tyranitar if it's an offensive one. I can also 2-hit KO the Mega Blastoise with Power Whip, too, just in case Blastoise thinks that it's safe from my Water-type moves. So we have a lot of ammunition that we can pack in here. Our opponent, Zacmander, leads off with Dragapult and the Talonflame. Not what I wanted to see on the lead matchup. We are going to attempt to Thunder Wave the Dragapult, I think is what I end up doing here. And my intention was that I could follow me and stop the Dragapult from Thunderbolting my Gyarados. It could be a physical Dragapult or have Will-O-Wisp or Thunder Wave of its own. That was my thinking. I didn't think I'd see Tailwind here because my opponent's Pokemon are so clearly faster than me, so I anticipated that the Talonflame will want to throw off some attacks, and the Dragapult would maybe U-turn, pivot out, or throw off an attack of its own. So the Follow Me goes off as the Sylveon hits the field, and we do see the Tailwind immediately, which sucks, but on the plus side, I do hit the Thunder Wave, and so while Thunder Wave's paralysis chance has been nerfed, that's not why I was doing that. I was doing that to make sure that the Dragapult was not faster than my entire team. So any sort of paralysis in the back would be a bonus, but that wasn't the main goal there. So here, anticipating my opponent to go for Hyper Voice and then maybe a Brave Bird. This is a very physically defensive Clefable, and it has -1 attack from the Intimidate. So I knew that if he went for like Hyper Voice into a physical move, I could live any moves coming out of that Talonflame for this part of the battle. We do end up protecting with the Gyarados, and I went for Cosmic Power thinking that I could really take advantage of him trying to target down the Gyarados, like Water type versus the Fire type, but I get the call wrong and I take a crippling amount of damage from Overheat. Overheat being a special move means that all that physical defensive investment means nothing. And then I take a Hyper Voice to the face, and I basically Cosmic Powered for no reason. Another play that I could have done there is just hard swap out. If I thought that the Brave Bird was coming out, switching out into Excadrill could have worked there. But again, I was worried about the fire type move anyway, and so that wouldn't have worked out in the long term. But now Clefable's just taking a whole bunch of damage basically for no reason. Seeing Overheat as well is dismaying because I thought that Avalugg would be able to take on physical moves from something like a Talonflame. And then here I end up dodging an Overheat and knocking out the Talonflame. However, it doesn't actually matter. The end of the turn is still the same. So while we did get a miss there from our opponent, it didn't actually impact anything. Fortunately, I don't get burned by Flame Body if that's the ability our opponent had. And we do see the Talonflame go down as my Clefable goes down, and that is not a good trade in this situation because my opponent got his Tailwind up and did crippling damage to my Clefable. Clefable didn't actually redirect anything, and then it died. So definitely my opponent getting a lot of value out of their Talonflame before it went down. Now the Tailwind is still up, and so the Sylveon won't outspeed things because it's paralyzed, but anything else that comes in alongside it will be outspeeding. On the plus side, I did go for a Waterfall on the last turn, so I can protect my Gyarados. I bring out my Excadrill, and we are going to Mega Evolve here. Now, I have a couple of options here. I could go for the high horsepower into the Dragapult, or I could go for the Iron Head into the Sylveon. Since the Sylveon is paralyzed, I would have the opportunity to maybe go for Iron Head and get through the Protect if it tries to do that to allow the Dragapult to do something. But we are going to see the Mega Evolution here come out for my Excadrill. And this is actually one of my MVPs for playing through Legends ZA, so I was really pleased to get to use it here. We do see Thunderbolt come out, and it does finish off my Gyarados. I should have protected there, honestly. I think that I didn't in the moment because I was thinking that he would target down the Excadrill. But that was kind of silly. All I had to do was protect and go for the Iron Head there. Because now Excadrill's going to get hit by this Mystical Fire and take a ton of damage. And all I had to do was protect my Gyarados and then go for the appropriate move there. Now the Babiri Berry on the Sylveon was a great bring because as far as steel moves go, Excadrill is really the only Pokemon on my team that can utilize steel moves. Like I do have like Iron Head on Dragonite or Iron Tail Pikachu to make an anime callback there. But yeah, now with these two being my remaining two Pokemon and Excadrill's HP being so whittled down against a special attacker as well, this does not bode well for the rest of this battle. So this one's definitely going to be a loss. Now there's another aspect of these battles, which is information. I don't want to give my opponent too much more information than he already has on my team. So Shadow Ball is going to finish off my Excadrill here, and I didn't want to reveal too much on my Pokemon, so I just went for Icicle Crash here. No Wide Guard or anything like that. He doesn't need to know if I have it. Plus, if Sylveon just uses Mystical Fire, it doesn't matter anyway. Surprisingly, Mystical Fire does not take out Avalugg. I was kind of flabbergasted at that, honestly. But it does let him know that I have leftovers, which is a little bit annoying. So that's going to be a loss. So adjustments that we need to make, though. I noticed right away that I really suffered in this game because I didn't even try to use the team before the battle. Like, I built the team, and then I was like, alright, it's just going to be vibes. So moving forward, one thing I will do after I build my team in Champions is I'm just going to go and battle with it on the ladder. That'll give me a better idea of the synergies. That'll give me a better idea of kind of who can live or hit and do what together. Yeah, so I definitely would have benefited from doing that here. However, we are into game 2. We're going to switch up the Pokemon that we're bringing quite drastically. Not expecting too much to change for my opponent's end. He does have the Tailwind and the Blastoise here. And I was like, okay, this actually might not be terrible. Because I have, number one, I have Fake Out on my Sableye. But number 2, I have Light Screen on my Sableye to cut down the damage from those special attack types. Now here I am just going to go straight for the Rock Slide. because I expected the Talonflame to think that it could just set up the Tailwind, I am going to try to have my Sableye fake out something here. And you can see me really waffling on the options there. I was like, do I go for it? Because if he protects the Blastoise and sets up Tailwind, I really have to get some chip damage there. But we are going to lock in the Rock Slide, and we are going to go for the fake out. Love seeing the Mega Evolutions in this game. They just feel really, really cool. It's just like, cha. And then especially with the Mega Excadrill, I just hear the Gurren Lagann in my head every single time. But I actually call it incorrectly. We see Protect from the Talonflame and Protect from the Blastoise. So, yeah, I could have absolutely just gone for the high horsepower there, and it would have pierced right through and done at least a little bit of chip damage to the Blastoise, especially if the Blastoise is utilizing Water Spout. We wanted to have as little HP as possible, not only because, you know, knock the dang thing out, but Water Spout's damage is based off of how much HP Blastoise has. So I was surprised to see double protect there because I could have gone for the piercing move. Spoilers, turns out Zach Bender forgot that I had piercing drill, so he wasn't even thinking about it. Anyways, we are going to use this next turn. I am going to try to set up the light screen. I do want to assume that something might be swapping out, and so I end up going for the high horsepower into the Blastoise slot. We don't see, of course, a double protect come out this early, and we do see the Tailwind. And man, Tailwind is just something that like I just really discounted in my team building when I was building this team. And I did encore the Blastoise into the Protect. And that works out great, but then I missed my freaking high horsepower. That would have done a ton of damage to the Blastoise. Also, high horsepower, I'm pretty sure, is 95% accurate. So that just felt really bad. But on the plus side, he's locked into Protect. So I'm expecting that he's going to want to swap out the Blastoise here, which means I can get up a free light screen. You might have also seen the move on Sableye, Quash. That is a move that from Sableye is a prankster boosted move. It's a non-attacking move, but it forces whomever I'm targeting to go last that turn. So I figured I could use that to help combat the Dragapult and the Tailwind a little bit, and he ends up staying in even though he's encored into the Protect. So that's just not what I wanted to see. On the plus side though, he did bring the Dragapult. That's another special attacker, and I missed the Rock Slide on the Dragapult. So Excadrill has gone for 3 moves, and it has not done any damage. I could have, again, just gone for the high horsepower into the Blastoise slot, but I didn't want to risk him going out into, like, the Sylveon on that. I don't really want to have... I guess that wouldn't have been terrible even on the Sylveon, but I thought for sure that the Talonflame was just going to stay in and attack, too. I didn't think he'd swap it out. The Blastoise was the one who was encored. So that was my thinking there. Okay, so now we're going to quash this Dragapult to force it to move last this turn. It doesn't matter how fast you are, if I quash you to the back. We go for the Rock Slide, and that honestly didn't do any damage. I almost went for high horsepower, but I admit that my confidence with the move was shaken because I missed it earlier. And if I had gone for the high horsepower into the Blastoise slot, which is what I was trying to do earlier, it would have just caught this Excadrill on the switch-in. So that was kind of annoying, honestly. Like, we've had all this switching around and stuff. I guess this is better than the first battle, but I was really, like, I wouldn't say I was tilted, but I was very annoyed at this point in the battle. And, you know, it's the game we play. That's Pokemon. You know, you come in, you miss a move, you swing and you miss, you shoot for the moon, you hit a star, the star explodes, whatever it is. But I was still annoyed. Okay, so I can totally say that. Now I go out to Gyarados here, expecting my opponent to maybe go for an Earthquake and a Protect from the Dragapult. He just goes for Shadow Ball again. Gyarados takes it really, really well. Can I just say that? Between the light screen and everything. And then, of course, my opponent hits his high horsepower into my Excadrill. So that sucked. And I believe he needed... That was the last turn of Tailwind, and I believe he needed the Tailwind to outspeed my Excadrill, too. So I called so many turns incorrectly, and then the ones that I called correctly so far, I was punished by the RNG. So here Rotom is really decent because now that the Tailwind is no longer up, Rotom should be the fastest thing on the field with a Choice Scarf item. Now, the downside is that I don't want to lock into an electric type move because the Excadrill is here. So we are going to protect and try to go for the overheat, but I miss the overheat into the Excadrill. And so I just am not really able to get anything going here, honestly. And that means that I take an unnecessary quarter of my HP to this Rock Slide. Now that I'm locked into overheat, I'm thinking that he might swap back out to the Talonflame here. And so we're going to switch as well. I really wanted to switch out the Gyarados because I was like, I think Gyarados is just going to take a Thunderbolt to the face. But I end up swapping the Gyarados because of that possible Thunderbolt threat. He just goes for Protect with his Excadrill, which is annoying. The thing should be dead. I go for the Overheat into the Excadrill again. He protects. And then we see the Thunderbolt come out. But fortunately, because of the light screen, it does not do that much damage to my Sableye. My light screen goes down, and this is kind of fine because this is a perfect opportunity to re-up that light screen. And we're just going to keep on trying to throw the Overheats into the Excadrill slot. Even if the Talonflame comes in, then I can swap Rotom out to the Gyarados. So that wouldn't be, like, horrible. But the other thing I could do is just go ahead and swap, expecting the Talonflame to come in on that slot. We kind of need a play to get us back into the match here, and I'm just not feeling it. So we do end up swapping the Gyarados out, which means that we're going to get another Intimidate drop on the Excadrill in case it wants to try to go for the Rock Slides. But the question is, do we see the Talonflame come in? We do not, so I called that wrong. My light screen goes back up. Shadow Ball goes off into the Sableye with the light screen. I take it somewhat, and he just goes for a Rock Slide. So I totally could have just stayed in and tried for another Overheat. Yeah, just not good vibes all around. Here we're going to try to go for a Waterfall, and I am going to attempt to quash the Dragapult. Now, I don't have a good move to hit the Dragapult with. I would have loved to hit it with the Fairy type move like a Dazzling Gleam, but I just couldn't fit it on the old Razzle Dazzle. I couldn't do it. So we are going to hopefully KO the Excadrill with the Waterfall here. But he could also just protect. But we're going to quash that so that way he doesn't knock out my Gyarados before I go for the move. He does miss. He finally misses a Rock Slide, which was great. And then that does give me the opportunity to not get flinched. A little bit too little too late as far as like hacks goes. I was really impressed by Gyarados living this quad super effective Thunderbolt with the light screen up here. That was very, very impressive. Do not underestimate Gyarados' bulk. But all of that battling, so many turns in, and we're just now KOing one Pokemon. Like, I just wasn't really locked in at this point in the battle either, because we should have made more progress on this. And yeah, there was just a lot of things going on with my mental that were bad that day, because I had to work that day when I wasn't expecting to have to work either. So my whole day was just kind of off. But that also is an example of how you just kind of have to lock it in regardless. Like in the first game, I think I played poorly. In the second game, I think I'm playing better. I wouldn't say well, but I'm definitely playing better. But I'm not getting necessarily rewarded for that play. But that's the RNG part of Pokemon, right? The way you battle against that mid-battle, and I can say that specifically because I just had my PPL battle a few minutes ago, the way you kind of get away from that, though, is to find your path to victory. Here, I figured I could possibly do something if I lock the Dragapult into that Thunderbolt, switch into my Rotom on the Thunderbolt, heading into my into my Gyarados, but I get the call wrong there. I should have swapped out the Sableye into the Rotom. On the plus side, though, now Sableye does not have to worry about a ground type, so there is a way forward here, but my Pokemon are severely chipped down, and I've only KO'd one of my opponent's Pokemon. So really, really not great here. Now, I do know that my Rotom is the fastest thing here, but it is very likely that my opponent will be clicking Tailwind, and then he will be the fastest thing here. The other thing that's important is that if I don't lock into foul play, I don't have a way to hit the Dragapult, because Dragons resist all 4 other options of types that I have here. I have water, grass, electric, and fire, besides the foul play. And so I kind of have to lock into foul play if I want to go that route. Here I end up locking into Electro Web, hoping that the Gyarados can maybe do something on its side. So I protect with the Gyarados, ideally hoping that he's going to attack with a Thunderbolt into the Gyarados slot. Then I could lower both of my opponent's speeds and try to do something. Now when you use Tailwind, that doubles your speed, and when you get minus speed from the Electro Web, it's just -1 speed. We do get a critical hit on the Dragapult, but again, that doesn't really do anything at this point. Yeah, a little bit too little, too late. I really need like 3 speed drops, and that would mean that I need another Protect in order to even have a chance. And so we are going to go for that here, just because you have to play to your outs, and that is our out here. We need the Protect, we need to drop the Dragapult speed, we need to keep getting Chip, we don't get the Protect, and of course we don't get to keep our Gyarados. So, but you can see though my thinking here. If we had been able to get the double Protect, and I was able to go for another Electro Web, and then like the Tailwind peters out, and like there's a way that I can see that working out. However, neither here nor there. With just little Toasty here on the field all alone, all we can do is just make some tasty cakes and take those home to eat. Zach Mander, thank you for the battle. I can't seem to beat you, so I am going to have the saltiest run back against you in the future. But I do enjoy our battles. You bring some very interesting tech to them. And yeah, we just have to ladder up more in champions. I got to tier Ultra 1, I think, or Ultra 2. It might have been Ultra 3. And kind of hit a wall there. But it's still fun to just try out different things too. So, a couple of takeaways from this battle though. Don't just go straight into the battle with a team. Take the team, go and practice with it on the ladder. Of course, I'm going to be at a disadvantage on the ladder with the team because I'm building for specific threats, whereas I won't have the normal coverage and things like that. But as I kind of saw with my PPL match, it just gives me a familiarity with the pieces that I'm working with. And especially with this type of battling, I don't take the time to calc. I spend my entire turn just thinking about what are the different options. And so there really isn't time to calc. And then in a situation where you're playing VGC, there's no calculator anyway. So it's a little bit different to think about it. And I also have to decide, do I want to do live comms for these, or do I want to post comm these? You'll get to see a little bit of both this week, because I'm going to live comm the PPL battle. And of course, this was a post comm. Let me know what you all prefer as well, if you even made it this far into the video. But I got to figure out what works the best for me. But yeah, thank you all for sticking around. You all are fantastic. I hope you have a wonderful week. And, of course, a beautiful, luscious, lovely, amazing night. Goodbye.